Well, Bob, thank you very much for coming on my podcast today. How are things for you? Because I imagine Married at First Sight, the attention of the show, you might be living in a little crazy world right now with all of the attention.
Yeah, it's different. It's something that's nice though. It's just weird, just even like going to your local shop, going to Tesco, for example, and then someone's like, and then people just Bob, and you're like, oh hi, and it's like, I'm new to it, but do you know what? It's nice because everyone's always got such nice things to say, and I think for me it's important. With obviously, as you can see, sort of what's happened. So no, it's really nice. A lot of love and support, which it's really nice to have there.
I'm going to say, what's it like with you going out to a shop now, just going on a walk, and people are like, "Wow, that's Bob from Married at First Sight."
Yeah, mate, it's just crazy. Reason is I'm just like your typical guy from like where I'm from, Paul, Bournemouth, and I'm just like a normal lad, and so people that are just like, Bob, like you're amazing, you're lovely, can I have a picture? But it is lovely, like it's nice. Sometimes a bit overwhelming because you're new to it, but I would never say no to someone who wants to have a chat because, like, why would you? Like, it's lovely and it's always complimentary.
On that subject, though, you might sometimes have people who come up to you and try and get a bit of information about you. Obviously, like they might say, "Are you and Megan still together? How did the other couples go?" They might just ask you any question about the show, but it's a big secret you have to keep, which I imagine will be in contracts and everything with the show. Is it hard for you keeping a secret, which is so big?
The thing for me, and it's hard, is because I just get talking to people and I get caught up in conversation.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I'm like, just sort of like posing, and I'm like, I can't really say. Obviously, I've got to obviously be quite. You are right. We've got a contract and everything you've got in the show, but it's hard because people were like, "Are you and Megan still together? If you are, how is she?" People ask me how she is, and it's one of those situations where you just got to sort of wait. But it's not easy because you're kind of on edge, and looking at what you're saying. But I want people to enjoy the whole experience of the show, and then obviously you'll find out exactly what happens with me and Megan. So,
for example, your close mates, have you told them or anything, or are you letting them watch the show to?
So my best man. So it's one of those. I've tried to keep it as shum as possible, but obviously it's hard when your mates are, "Do you want to come out for a beer?" or "What are you doing tonight?" And I can't be like, "Well, actually, blah 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 blah," or "I'm doing this" or "I'm doing that." So it's one of those, but I'm keeping it all under wraps, and I know Megan will be as well. So
and it's going to get a bit more juicy tonight with the commitment ceremony, so we might find a little bit more. But now let's go back to the start of the process. What was the reason? What was the reason you wanted to do this show, and how was the application, and when was it filmed? Because I imagine it's a very big risk doing a show and marrying a stranger who you've never ever met before. So
number one, it's only a lunatic would do what we've done, and anyone that does it in the future, good luck. If you want some advice, message me on Instagram. I will talk to you and I will give you some advice. But it started quite a long time ago. It was well before Christmas last year. Christmas just gone. But I was in a relationship for 6.5 years. And simple thing is then we broke up, and in the same month we then went into lockdown. And then it was the longest I'd sort of been single, and I'd have been on a Zoom call with some of my mates. We were just like having a drink, like catching up. And then I just saw an advert for it, so I applied for it. And you never think they're ever going to come back to you, and then all of a sudden I then get an email back said, we'd love what the information you filled in. We'd like to book you in with a chat with the producers. So I suspected the producers. And they're like, we've seen that you've done performing arts at university, and do you like singing? I was like, love singing. They're like, sing us a song. So I was bursting the song, and then they're like, do you like dancing? And I was doing busting a few moves and stuff, and and then I didn't hear anything for a couple of months, and I thought, I've ruined this. And then they come back to me and was like, we're really interested, and I had to go up to London, do like a sort of a shoot for like a singles day, which is what they call it. And then I ended up just Then they're like, we want to film some things down in Bournemouth. I was like, okay. And at this stage, I still didn't even know if our father was on the show. They didn't tell you until I'd done my interview, which is at home in my flat, where I've done the interview with them. And they tell you at the end of it and say, so we've actually got you a match. You're going to be getting married. How do you feel? And I don't even think it made it to the show, but I was literally just sort of sat there, just like, you just got no idea what to say. So yeah, it was like, it wasn't a lot to do, but you had to do a few tests and stuff to make sure that you were sort of okay to go on to the show. Mentally, I think was a big part, because this can be, for some people, it's an easy journey. As you can see, that some people are having relatively quiet time, but they're having a great time, which is good. And some of us have had a bit more of a difficult time. So, and the one thing I just want to say is, the one thing that the Channel 4 do and the production team do is they give you a lot of good support, which is something that's been important, I think, through this.
And I remember earlier this year, January, February, the Australian one was a massive hit in lockdown. And I imagine there'll have been a lot of people that applied. And when you do apply for something, you think, you know what, I'll stick an application form in, but I won't get on.
Yeah.
But for you, were you like, wow, when like you said, when that came through saying you're on the show?
Mate, it was mental. Literally, I was like, I'm going on. I'm getting married. Like, I'm actually in. I was like, wow. And even though, to be honest, I didn't really process for a lot of it. I sort of took a lot of it in my stride. But it was the night that, even after we filmed the stag do, and it was the night before my wedding, that I was sat in my hotel room and I was like, I'm getting married tomorrow.
Someone you don't know.
I'm not. Yeah, literally, it was just like I was sort of sat on my own, just like, I am going to be a married man this time tomorrow, like, to a stranger. Like, who does that? So it literally didn't hit me until the night before my wedding.
Let's talk a bit more about that wedding day now. Whereabouts did you and Megan have yours? And did you have a say where you wanted it, or?
Yeah, no, it's, again, everything's kept completely under wraps. You're put into a hotel sort of middle of nowhere, and it's a bit like, and then you're taken to your wedding. Then eventually I got to see like my best man, Mikey C. And yeah, I always forget the name of the place he was at. I always forget the name of it. Megan knows it. It's like Ashbury House or something, I think, which was in like somewhere in London. Wow, what a place! Like, but yeah, I had no idea. Literally, you're driven in the car to your wedding, and you're like, I don't even know where I'm going, let alone who I'm marrying, let alone who's going to be there. So yeah, it was all just mental. Excuse me.
How was it when you first seen Megan? Because obviously, it's the show is marrying a stranger. How was it the first time you seen her walk down the aisle?
Mate, there's no words. You can see my expression was like taken back. Like, the whole day felt like a Disney film. Do you know what I mean? It was like a Disney film. It was like the princess with like the big white dress, the tiara, walking down the stairs. I compare it to the scene in Titanic where Jack's looking up at Rose. Rose is walking down the stairs and he like sort of looks around and just sort of caught off guard. So it was so many emotions. One, you're like, obviously she's gorgeous, and you're just like, well, no, this is now my wife. Like, what more can you say to her?
It all was going really smoothly, and then the honeymoon period, I always have to say, a few cracks did start to show. Yeah. What do you think caused the differences between you two?
I think the biggest thing for me and Megan, when obviously it's a very intense thing. Like, normally you're dating someone, you're with someone maybe a couple hours, then you don't see each other a couple of days, a couple hours. Whereas we got married, which, first of all, very romantic, beautiful day. Look at the venue and how everything looked. It was unbelievable. And then you're in a hotel room. Then you're literally, we were up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting ready to go on our honeymoon. So there was like hardly any sleep. So it was very all intense, very quickly. But that's the part of the process. We knew what we were signing up to. We knew what we were doing. And I think that was just a bit of hard because obviously I'm an extrovert. I'm very out there, like quite loud. Megan sources her energy from being a bit more like, okay, let's take it down. Let's. So I think just her being exposed to that quite quickly was maybe one of the things. But maybe the initial attraction from her part wasn't there. But it's one of those. It's a very hard situation for people to be in, I think. But I think that was probably the main reason. Just a lot to take in very quickly, and people source their energies differently. I think that was the main thing for us.
Because in normal life, when you look at dating and things, you probably meet up with that person maybe once every couple of weeks and like sort of get to know them before you're spending that much time together. But as you say, you're getting married and immediately going on a honeymoon where you are with each other for, I don't know how long it was. How long was it? Was it 2 weeks?
What do you mean, sorry? How long was what?
The honeymoon.
So the honeymoon, I think we were there for, I'm sure it was about 8 days.
And then you're
7 or 8 days.
Then you're immediately spending that time together.
And just think about what people have only seen on the show.
Yeah.
Because you've seen the fractions of the bit. But we had a helicopter ride, which never got to, didn't make it in the final edit of the show, where Megan was very attentive. She was like, because I'm petrified of like planes, flights. And she was like very nice and calming. But but like you're completely right. Normally you date someone, it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Don't get me wrong. If you have a good first date, it could be longer, but on the first date. But after that, whereas this is like you're with each other. You wake up in the morning. By the time you go to bed, you've been with someone 12, 13, 14, 15 hours. So it can be very, very intense. You need your own time, which we tried to do, but it's just. It was very intense. I think that's just the biggest word for anything for a lot of people. People need to look at and realise that that's what it was like. Yeah,
and just all that time together, it must have been. After that, it started to spice up a little bit more. There was a first dinner party, obviously.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what went on between Ant, Jordan, Nikita, all of that. But then the next night, at the commitment ceremony, you found out through Jordan that he had shared a kiss with Megan. How did you process that? That must have been very hard.
It was quite hard to process in the moment because it's not just like a normal situation in normal life where it's just you find out like the person you're married to or your missus or your partner, they've kissed someone and they've betrayed your trust. So it was very weird because it's like you're in a situation, you're in a room full of all the other couples, the guys that you've started to build bonds with. And then obviously you've got all the cameras sort of around you as well. And you try and take it all in. And in that moment, it was the first time really where I just zoomed in just straight on my own emotion and how I felt. And it was hard to deal with because you don't know what the right thing is to say, what the right thing is to do. But yeah, it was quite a hard process in the moment because I went into the process going, I'm going to give everything I've got and I want this to work because that's why you do it. You don't marry a stranger at first sight for banter. You're doing it because you want to be with someone and make it work. And yeah, it was intense. It was hard in that first moment, very hard to sort of take on board. But I think I dealt with it relatively in a good way.
I think as well, like you say, I think you did with shaking Jordan's hand and being the bigger man. But I don't think it necessarily came out in the best of situations because it was a dull atmosphere already in the room at that point. So I think it just made it worse. But last couple of nights, we've seen you and Megan sort of rekindle things and enjoy each other's company again. How do you think you've both managed that? Because for you, it's a big thing as well, because you might now think that this has happened to me. Will it happen to me again? You might have trust issues with things.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
So I think for me, the main thing is coming into this process, I knew that I was not expecting like an easy ride from the beginning. And I said to myself, whatever happens, if there's ups, there's downs, is you don't give up at the first time, at the first hurdle, you don't. Marriage is about compromise and you have to make sure you make it work. The kind of person I am in life is I don't just give up on the first hurdle. Yeah. And again, how intense our situation was, everything that happened, I'm not justifying what Megan done in any single way, shape, or form, because I would never do that. That's, simple. However, you don't just look at it as it's black and it's white, like in a normal situation. So it's not still nice. We spent all that time. We did have laughs together, but a lot of it people haven't seen. But we do have laughs together, and it's not nice to see her being sort of, being upset. And just the kind of man I am, is I wanted to make sure she's all right. And we had a bit of a chat that night, and I was just like, look, where do we sort of stand? And you see the conversation, I think, between me and Megan, where we're in the bedroom, and we're sort of like, what we're going to do going forward. And I wasn't ready to give up at the first hurdle, and I'm glad we didn't, because then, like you just said, the week we just had for Yes Week, where we got to go to Brighton Pier, and mate, it was an unbelievable day. And I think it stripped our emotions back. It sort of just made us go, do you know what? Let's be Bob, let's be Rob, let's be Megan, let's just have some fun together. And that helped us sort of progress. And as you'll see in the coming weeks, without giving any spoilers.
Yeah. I think that takes us to where we are with the show now, because commitment ceremony tonight, we can't give much away. But one thing I would like to ask with the show is, without naming any names, is there any of them lads that you think you've made a good mate for life with?
Oh, no, I don't mind naming names. To be fair, a lot of the boys, all of them, I speak to relatively on a regular, well, not all of them, but,
Yeah.
But most of them, I speak to, they're good lads. Like, we've all been through the same thing. But if I'm going to, be straight up and honest, Adam, he supported me a lot through that process. But also Luke, Luke and Adam sort of spent a lot of time together, because we just got on, I think, with very similar to who we are. Maybe not in the personality side of things, but Adam and Luke are the two boys I think I've got on with the most. And I've spoke to quite, me and Anne, we've got a similar sort of banter about us.
Yeah.
And again, but it's difficult because I can keep going with Frankie. A lot of people, people are going to pass their judgments up about what they think of Frankie, for example. But that guy is, I'll tell you something that a lot of people won't know, and no one knows. There was one night him and Maz went out. It's quite early when we moved into the apartments. They went out, done a little bit of shopping together. And Frankie come up to me, this is again all off camera, and he goes, I saw something today, Bob, and I thought of you, so I got it for you. And I was like, right, okay. And because I always wear blazers, I don't know if you've noticed, but and he's bought me, it's an Ace of Spades bottle opener, silver, black, and I was like, that's amazing. He goes, so when you got your blazers on, you can take it out, pop it out. And the mental thing is, it's on my wedding day, on my cufflinks were silver Ace of Spades. And I was like, that's mental. But that's the kind of thing that a lot of people won't see, probably might not see from Frankie, but he's a pure soul, good soul. So I think I've just gone through all the guys, just said they're all great, but Adam, Frankie and Luke, and the ones we'll talk to the most, and Anne as well, but even Matt and Dan, I'm just going to name them all. Straight up, me and Adam speak probably most days, me and Luke speak most days, Frankie I speak to a bit, so yeah, they're good guys, great bunch.
And it sounds like you really have developed a good relationship with all of them, and hopefully we'll see it over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you will, definitely.
I put my Instagram story earlier. Is there any questions for you? And I got one which was, would you change yourself for a woman, or would you be true to yourself and stay the way you are?
Okay, one great question you have come up with that, because I feel like a lot of men and women feel the pressure to change who they are to satisfy their partner. And there's an element to it which I agree with, but on the majority, you shouldn't change who you are as a person, because there are thousands of people out there, millions, that will love you for exactly who you are. However, at the same time, when you're in such an intense process, or even in normal life, sometimes there are parts of you do need to work on, and you do start to realize maybe parts of yourself that, you know what, I can see why that's a bit too much for someone, or maybe I'm rude in that sense. So I think every day in life you learn something new about yourself.
Mm.
And I feel like it's not completely wrong to be like, well, actually, maybe that isn't everyone's cup of tea. Maybe I do need to change that. But ultimately, I don't think people should change who they are as a person, what your morals are, what you believe in, because that's ultimately defines who you are. And that's something that I'm not going to change, and I haven't changed, and Megan's not asked me to change at all. And I feel that's where me and her really did manage to start our process, I think, together.
I think it's a very important thing. And that takes us to the end. Bob, I'd like to thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
No problem, mate. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, take care of yourself. Thank you so much, mate. I appreciate it.